know. Okay, it's PC versus Mac. I wanted to share a really hysterical Team Coco video with y'all because I thought it was just perfect. It summed up the whole iPad 2 perfectly. But TBS has already started removing them from YouTube, so I'm not going to risk part 1 of the show getting pulled down because I happened to share it. If I can find one that exists, I'll cut it into a playlist, but I'm not going to put it in a video. If I'm in a good mood, it's like I'm always forgiving people who like their fans free links, but when people start declaring war on their fans, which is exactly what Coco copyright people have done, I'm not sure I want to give him a link. You know, I would give a link back to TBS. I would. That's like, Commodore, have you seen that video, by the way?
What video?
Oh.
Team Coco iPad 2 thing.
Yeah. Oh, it's just sick. It really is.
I'm Conan O'Brien.
Yeah. It was the sickest thing I'd ever seen. Anyways, moving on to legitimate stories. Would have cut it in here for you. Or at least put a link in, but nah, I don't know. Anyways, before we get into actual PC v Mac stuff, what do we think about the fact that the frickin' 3DS is getting Netflix?
What?
Yeah.
That thing is a joke too. You're not supposed to watch that thing for more than an hour or something, right?
It's getting Netflix. I'm not sure why, but it is.
You know, I never really understood portables. Like, I like the idea of being able to take Tetris while taking a dump, okay? But I feel like I want to put play my games on the big screen once I'm home. Okay.
Okay. You know, I like portable Nintendos. I liked portable Sega Genesises too, but the Game Gear is an entirely different matter, and I'm probably the only person here old enough to remember what the hell a Game Gear was. No? Game Gear!
Not that much older than I am.
Alright. Well, but it was like a 2-year wonder, and then it was like anything Sega makes. You know, they made it for a few years, and then it just went poof!
I almost bought an Atari Lynx at a store somewhere.
Alright. And of course, the other weirdness going on this week is, for some reason, Warner Brothers is going to be distributing movies via Facebook.
Wow. Since everybody's supposed to have a Facebook account.
I guess. You know, I have like some promotional Facebook accounts, but I don't have a personal Facebook account. And my promotional accounts are registered to Nom de Plumes, not my actual name. And I'm not saying which ones they are because Facebook will remove them if it violates the terms of service. Because we here at Facebook believe that only real people can publicize things. Give us all your info now!
I'm using a fake name.
As long as, you know, the real person, you know, is either a person or a company. Because companies can have Facebooks too.
Yes, but they have to register that to an actual person. When you go to create a promotional Facebook, like for a company or for a thing or whatever, you have to say who's the person who's administering it. So it's like you have to give all the same info you would for a Facebook, and then they'll like pester you. Well, would you like to create a personal Facebook now that you've given all the information you needed to create one that we're going to treat just like you had? Which means all your info's subject to the same breaches. Oh, look, James is having internet problems again.
Great. Am I still here?
You're still here. I don't know about him. He may be calling in and out the whole show. I hope not.
No, I'm using Wi-Fi. I'm still here.
Yeah, for those of you who are wondering what's going on with James's internet, what he said was going on last week was they're messing around with his Wi-Fi router there and tweaking the settings, which of course is creating under-God latency, which of course creates Skype drops. So we'll just see if he comes back or not. The other one last weird story going on that's at least of relevance is Adobe is creating something called Wallaby, whatever. It's a marsupial sounding thing. And
Like Rocklet Monroe.
exactly. And the end goal of this project, although it doesn't really work right now, is to do exactly what everybody thought we'd get out of Adobe as HTML5 began to become a standard and more predominant. And that is, it's going to basically export Flash directly into HTML5.
That's pretty awesome, though.
Yeah,
Does it do it live, or
well, no.
is it like a plugin that takes live Flash content?
What it is if you're using any of the Adobe suites, instead of exporting it as a Flash file, you'll...
Is it like a cross-compiler or something?
Well, yeah, what it'll do is instead of exporting a Flash file, it'll export a web page that's doing the Flash content using JavaScript and, HTML5 tags, which is basically the idea behind HTML5 that, unless we're absolutely necessary, we're getting time. However, this begs the obvious question, since Apple doesn't, because as you said, Commodore, this is basically a cross-compiler that's going to export Flash into HTML5 and JavaScript. So, how long do you figure before iPads decide they don't like anything signed this way?
They might turn HTML5, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, well, we have detected the following meta tag stating that Adobe made this HTML document. Therefore, for your protection, JavaScript has been disabled. I know that's what the iPad's gonna do. Hey, yes, we don't believe in cross-compiling the web. All web should be...
It's a safer way to run it, because with no script extension for Firefox, that's how it goes.
Say that again, Commodore?
What about that? It'll be like that no script extension for Firefox.
Well, yeah, and we should be clear. HTML5 by no means is perfect. A lot of people turn off JavaScript. However, I think they're a little nuts and touched in the head, and they make, basically, here's what happens when you turn off JavaScript in a browser.
Yeah, HTML5, that's what you have.
Well, basically, while you have patched some things and done some stuff, okay, James is trying to get back in.
I tried to answer the call.
Try and add him. Can you?
I did.
Okay, will it let you?
I want to try it again.
Try it again.
This call dropped.
I have another question about the whole
Go ahead.
thing. Is it supporting a specific codec?
Hey, do you think I can turn on my video this time? Since he's not here?
Well, we're trying to add him back. Hey, there we go. There we go. He's back.
Sorry, my dad ran a configuration tool on the router. And
Yeah, tell him to stop doing that for the next hour, please. Stop knocking everybody off the internet. No, here. We were talking about when you turn JavaScript off. When you turn JavaScript off in a modern browser, you basically turn it into IE6.
Or turn to links.
No, you've turned it into IE6 in terms of its sophistication and what it's capable of. Incidentally enough, the primary reason government agencies and stuff like IE6 is because it's not capable of running the modern web. They're like, well, these things are bad. The modern web is evil. We don't like it. So we want a browser that doesn't support any of the modern web whatsoever. Things like frames, JavaScript, external files, doing things, they're all evil.
IE6 will still run JavaScript. I mean, it'll run plenty malicious stuff.
Okay, here's the thing. It'll run plenty of malicious stuff, but it won't run most of your modern JavaScript. When you get into doing JavaScript, like a perfect example of that would be jQuery. And IE has absolutely no support for jQuery or any. It doesn't know what to do with it, even if you have jQuery loaded. It's like IE6.
But I mean, that part of JavaScript, IE supports perfectly.
IE6 does. Well, and IE7, 8, and 9 support all of this stuff with some hacks added to them. IE9
very good, so that's why it's great. But yeah.
Yeah, and IE9 it's gotten to the point where you largely don't need the hacks, so I think that's a good thing. As far as the codec, what you were asking about, Leo, that's the video, and that's still the war. I'm sure Apple's still saying everything must be H.264, and the rest of the internet has said, no, we're going with the other guy.
That's exactly why I was asking, though, if you had any information about that.
Well,
that was still ongoing.
Okay.
Is Adobe backing something particular?
Well, when Google came out and said we're open sourcing VP8, Adobe was right there saying Flash is going to support it. So my guess is
This isn't Flash.
No, this isn't Flash, but this is exporting what would become Flash. Which means my guess is the settings are going to be the same standard that you can go in there and select. Yes, I'd like to be VP8, which works with everything but Apple.
What about IE, or is that a plugin?
Say that again?
What about IE9, or is that a plugin?
IE9 would get VP8 support via Flash. And
Okay.
that if somebody adds the Flash plugin to IE9, then they could play VP8 codec via the Flash plugin.
And then Web A, right?
WebM.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting, and it's going to go. Now, I mean, this is very experimental right now. My guess is we're not going to see a workable beta or even alpha of this anytime this year. My guess is that's probably sometime in 2012, just in time for the apocalypse.
You mean the third apocalypse?
Yeah. Roasted apples, anybody?
Y2K over again.
How long is it until the apocalypse?
Wait, how many days is it now, Leo?
I'll have it in a second.
Yeah, I'll have it in a second. Okay. No, well, it's what the only. I mean, technically, there's no reason Apple could run this, but I haven't seen anything Adobe's ever made or Microsoft or something. Whenever a web page is created using any of these software, I haven't seen one yet that doesn't sign it. You know, it inserts an author meta tag and says, "I made this." You know.
What software?
This Wallaby software that Adobe's working on to basically be for the next version of their Creative Suite, where the Flash content will be able to export web pages. But I mean, when you create a web page using Dreamweaver, there's a signature meta tag in there that says, or something in the code that says, this page was created using Dreamweaver. You know,
That's not required though.
It's not required. You can take it out. But how many people are going to go do that? And it's one of those things, I can so see Apple being petty enough that, oh, we've seen a page compiled using the Adobe export thing. No, you didn't make this on a Mac. We're not going to load this page. This JavaScript is bad. It's Adobe JavaScript.
By the way, 654 days.
Oh, yes, okay.
Oh, so that's when, what's his name, Watson becomes self-aware, and then he won't open pod bay doors, and all that stuff will happen. It's kind of gets launched.
I don't know. All I know is 1 year, 9 months, 13 days from now, the world's supposed to end.
No, it says the 14th. It says the 14th Bakhtun. You know, let it go. Okay. Moving on to Microsoft. You know what? In line with the apocalypse in 2012, that's incidentally enough when Microsoft is holding out. They're not doing anything tablet-wise. They've officially announced this. Microsoft will not be doing tablets until Windows 8. And come Windows 8, Microsoft will decide to get into the tablet war with a desktop OS in the form of Windows 8. Which is supposedly going to be coming out sometime in 2012. So we now know the obsolete date for XP, Vista, and Windows 7. Set your clocks for the apocalypse.
That could be a smart move.
Well, honestly, what that's going to depend on is a couple of things, whether that's a smart move or not. This is classic Microsoft. Rather than even get into it, it's an emerging market, the shape of it's still taking place. This is what Microsoft does. Let them all figure it out, and we'll figure out what each of them do right and copy it wrong. This is classic Microsoft. And you know, I mean, occasionally things come out of this like IE, but you know, then other things come where they just, at half the price, kind of charge in and take over the network. What this is honestly going to come down to is, our tablets going to turn more into desktops, and our desktops going to turn more into tablets, or is the end user going to draw this imaginary line in the sand, and when they try and cross it, they're going to go, no. Because Microsoft making this decision, for it to be the right decision, is kind of based on the logic of Well, tablets are going to turn more into desktops, and desktops are going to turn more into tablets.
Microsoft market's more backwards compatibility and all that stuff, like in legacy support. That's where their market is.
Well, but that's something Microsoft has made very clear as of late, that they no longer want to be part of their market or marketing. Yeah, they want XP dead. They've drawn the line in the sand. You can't. Your software can be made compatible, but none of your hardware, because of the way they made XP mode work. Microsoft has made it very clear in the last 18 to 24 months, we are no longer about legacy. We are about legacy must die, and you must embrace the new Windows.
That is a very new approach for Microsoft. They used to be all about legacy.
Well, to be honest, that was one of the real reasons to buy Windows. Is that you knew, even though it might be buggy for the first 6 to 10 months, why they figure out how to make the old kernel stuff work with the new kernel stuff, that you knew it would keep going, that they'd figure out a way to get, if there was any money in it, for this to come over here.
And they bent over backwards to do that.
Yeah, but especially given the way Windows work, but that's something that is very clear that going forward is not going to be the Microsoft way. So that is going to create some issues. Incidentally enough,
I don't know. I wonder if maybe that's what they're going for in Windows 8, since you're talking about the possibility that could be their tablet OS. I wonder if they're Microsoft. We're wishing the iPad would be.
Microsoft has made it very clear that they don't consider they consider the phone different. Hence Phone 7. They don't consider the tablet different. They consider the tablet another computer. So
yeah, but at the same time, the tablet is an entirely different interface, and you have to create a UI that supports it. That's part of it.
Well, no, but Microsoft doesn't think you need to. They think a natural evolution of that touch gesture layer, like you use on that.
That you need to. I wonder if maybe this idea that they're delaying till Windows 8 is an indication that they're changing their minds and they want to create something.
I'm going to go with no. And the reason I'm going to go with no is because something that's getting popular is these touchscreen all-in-ones, and I think Microsoft's logic is that technology will be cheap enough by then that we can put the same technology we're putting in these to-the-cloud HP touchscreen all-in-ones in tablets, and then we can just release the next generation of our Microsoft Touch technology, which is going to be part of Windows 8. Only an idiot doesn't think that they're going to continue that logic with Windows 8.
Now, with Windows 8, do you think there'll be Windows 8 clones, like we have with PC clones, like Hewlett Packard and so on and so forth? And mom and pop shops can make them, but but what about Windows 8?
Well, no. Here's what I honestly think there. They're not going to be Windows 8 clones. Because there are no PC clones. It's like there's just the majority of the OEMs sell the system with Windows, and they sell it as they saw it. What Microsoft is thinking is they're going to be able to convince Hewlett Packard, BlackBerry, Motorola, all of these people to be using Windows 8 on their tablets instead of Android or WebOS. At that point, they might have their work cut out for them. Because their real partner that they could have pushed that with, of course, would have been Hewlett Packard. But Hewlett Packard has no interest whatsoever in going Windows tablets because they bought Palm. They have
the 1980s all over again.
Yeah, they have every interest whatsoever in pushing WebOS out. So
I think I know what's gonna happen. I think Android's gonna win because Ray 1 was the clones. The licensed clones, the legally licensed clones that they won.
Well, I think it's why I love Android, and I wish OEMs would get the hell out of Android's way and let Android be Android. Yeah, I have to admit that Hewlett Packard and Palm, if they do it right, could give Android a real run for their money. Apple would have to stop being Apple to give them a run for their money. So they're going to have fun going down, but they're going to go down. You know, it's only an Apple fanboy can pretend that isn't going to happen right now. But it's not necessarily Android's game. Android could lose it to WebOS if it doesn't get its acts together, because WebOS has a lot of things going for it that Android does too, and due to the different nature of WebOS, if Android doesn't take advantage of its strengths, it could get outdone by WebOS. Anyways, moving on to Microsoft having a dramatic reversal, Microsoft too has decided that IE6 must die.
Yeah, it's
Oh yeah, it's on Twitter. Like, what is James retweet what Microsoft said on Twitter? It was like, we would love people to use our products, but no one encourage it. But please stop using IE6.
You know, I saw that. I just kind of had to laugh at it because I'm like, the internet as a whole has just kind of decided, and I'm one of them. You know, all us web developers. There's a few of us who, because we're working at some place that's like government sponsored, so I'm not one of those, but I know people who are. If they're working for like some government agency or some company that has old computers from hell, the web page it doesn't look good if the web page won't load on the boss's computer. And you really want to go to your boss and knock him upside the head and go, "Stop using IE6, you idiot!"
No, that's the hand that feeds you. You know, you don't want to bite that hand.
Yeah, I said you want to. I didn't say you do. I said you want to, but it's the boss, so you can't. So, but aside from these places, pretty much everywhere else has just decided, well, I'm going to make it work with Firefox, Chrome, and Safari, and Opera. I'll put in the needed hacks for Opera. I'll put in the needed hacks if I'm doing stuff that needs to differentiate between WebKit and that Safari uses and the other standard that everybody else is using. And I'll do all of these things. And then I'll even put in a few hacks to make sure it works with IE8, and if I feel like it, IE7. But beyond that, screw it. I'm going to use the modern web. I'm going to use jQuery. I'm going to use all these things. Screw IE6. I'm going to have background images in my divs and tables, damn it. So it pretty much everybody has moved on. I think Microsoft has realized that IE6 has kind of become the running joke of everything that could possibly be wrong with a modern web browser, because IE6 is a 10-year-old browser that, actually it's older than 10, that in no way, shape, or form should be a modern web browser, but it still somehow has over 20% market share, I think, at last cut, which is, it's like half of the people using IE are using IE6.
Good. Did you see this IE6 countdown website that Microsoft made?
No, I hadn't seen that. Go ahead and add that underneath that then, because Microsoft's goal is, what is it, in the next year or two to get IE market share down to less than 1%.
Like that's gonna happen.
Well, I think they'll.
It's not Microsoft, which is weird.
Well, here's the thing. I think their logic is that all of those people are going to upgrade to IE7 or 8, and maybe even directly to IE9, but they can't upgrade to IE9 unless they're on a Vista or 7 system, and those XP holdouts can't do that. I think Microsoft will succeed in killing IE6. I have no doubt of that. But what's going to be really interesting is what do they switch to from IE6? You know,
they gotta switch to Firefox or something, because like, they can't run IE9, the good version of IE.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have to be on a modern Windows system. I think.
Yeah, but most people run like 87-year-old systems, you know.
Well, no. Here's the thing. The reason for that is for the hardware acceleration to work, which I don't see anyone really taking advantage of. Web design. I've been talking. Every web designer I talk with, like, are you going to take advantage of the IE9 hardware accelerations? And they're like, why should I?
5 years.
They're like, why should I take advantage of something that only one browser can use? It's like when you're designing a website, you care about cross-browser, cross-system compatibility, which means that will start getting taken advantage when everybody else does it, and when everybody else does it, there's no real benefit to the fact that IE did it first.
I don't totally agree about that, because the hardware acceleration, it doesn't change how you use your JavaScript, your Canvas elements. It just makes it work better. It still works the exact same, and a lot of, if you have a fast enough computer, it'll work the same in a browser that doesn't have GPU acceleration. So it'll.
Well, yeah, I know what you're saying, but at the end
it's not the same as adding it like their own special code. It's just.
Yeah, but most people don't have fast computers, and most people want cheapy boxes.
Well, no, and that's the thing. You can do some really great stuff with JavaScript. You can do some oh dear God stuff with JavaScript. But at the end of the day, most web designers won't put the oh dear God JavaScript on their page because they are aware that 90% of the people who will be going to view that site don't have a system powerful enough to render that JavaScript smoothly. So it's like, what's the point of putting that complex JavaScript that's client-side system intensive if they're not going to have a good experience, and their end result of me bogging their machine down is they're never going to want to go to my site. Why the hardware acceleration fixes this, I don't see that more sophisticated, Flash replacing JavaScript getting used until a good chunk of the systems out there can run it smoothly. I just don't see it happening for obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm. I mean, well, it also depends what they're developing for. Like, you talk about how it's almost 20% using IE6, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's only in the sector of either you're talking about the general internet or the internet of kind of the businesses. When you look at different statistics, like if I go to W3 schools and look at their browser statistics, obviously this is not normal. This is developers going here, but over here the IE amount is only about 4%. Given in here it also shows IE is not the most popular browser. But, I mean, a lot of those IE6s are businesses, and there's not really people who casually browse the internet.
Well, no, and that's actually one of...
From this chart that you linked us to...
And businesses you don't really worry about, because they're mostly using...
Well,
they're not really,
Well, no, well, it depends. And in every niche, there's science. Like, for example, I guarantee you... if I were to make a site for content like this and stuff, I probably wouldn't care too much about hurting myself to make it Internet Explorer compatible. I'm just saying, the target audience here probably isn't using IE, regardless of what OS they're on. I'm just saying. It's like, so yeah, there are obvious reasons not to do that, or if they are, they'd be using IE 8 or 9.
Yeah.
But it is something to keep in mind, and like you say, it depends what kind of site you're doing. It's an entirely different set of rules for people trying to do cloud-based applications right now. There's no reason whatsoever if you're making a cloud-based application to give any consideration whatsoever to IE 6, 7, and probably IE 8. You just want to start with IE 9 and move forward, damn it. It's like, Now, but it will be interesting to see where that 20% goes, because I don't think all of them are going to go to IE 8 or 9. I don't. I think it might further erode IE market share. We'll see how that winds up sonning out, but because a lot of people love Chrome, and Chrome's pretty efficient when it comes to this stuff. Okay. Patch Tuesday, of course. It's the only reason I'm bringing this one up for Microsoft. Actually, this is boring. Let's move on. Microsoft claims Windows Phone, of course, is growing 9,000 apps plus 100 a day. So you.
What? 9,000?
What?
What does this guy say about the apps?
Say that again.
Vegeta, what does this guy say about the apps getting an app per day? It's over 9,000.
Growing at 100 a day, so they say. And this is in line.
But, it's very, skewed because of how much internal work, Microsoft, they're like, you talked about how they're, either you or Jordan talked about how Microsoft is, letting their workers, work on Windows 7 apps in their free time or something like that.
Right.
They're really, really pushing everyone they have power.
No, well, and say honestly, I think this is focusing on the wrong thing. You know, I honestly think Bit said it best when he got into this, and that was the whole idea of it doesn't really.
Switching.
No, it doesn't matter how many apps, and the fact that everybody, Apple, Android, now Phone 7, even BlackBerry is focusing on we have this many apps, quantity over quality. Numbers! The more apps for you to not be able to find the app you're looking for, the better! It's like, that really does sum it up.
They're basically saying Mike Johnson is this big, here we go. There we go, I'm big, I'm huge, you know?
You know, and
doesn't mean how to use it, you know?
I'm all for more usable apps, but at the end of the day, until somebody solves the problem of being able to just randomly searching find the cream from the crap, which nobody has solved. Even Google, the supposed king of search. You know, to this day, you still can't do this on a computer. What is the answer to my question? And just have it answer it. Until computers can do that, you cannot solve this problem. We're trying to get them to do that, but they just can't.
Well, Fram Alpha does it with math questions. That's how I figure out how much time it tells you.
Well, no, but say I ask a question like,
what about who discovered America?
well, and that one it would probably find, but if it's any more obscure than who discovered America, and it should...
that question is very controversial.
Well, no, I'm going to say it should give you two answers. It should tell you about the Vikings and their non-permanent settlements, and it should tell you about Columbus getting lost, and then it should tell you about the other people who went in from the other side. So there's actually three good answers to who discovered America. So... And it should give you all three. Well,
Google does tell you the answer to the ultimate question of life in the universe.
Well, of course they know that one. They're geeks. Okay. But yeah, it's honestly, until you settle that, the more applications you have, the actual less desirable your marketplace gets to me. And, you know, the Android one's becoming hard to find stuff as of late. Windows Phone 7 won't take long. You know, once you cross that line, you can't find shit. Here's how you find good applications today. You're having a conversation with somebody, and they say, "Oh, did you hear about that app? What's his name got?" Or what's her name got? You're like, no, I hadn't heard about that. What? That sounds good. Let me try that. That's how you find good apps. Word of mouth. It's like...
I heard a lot of the Android people, they use an app called AppBrain, where they have their friends, like, refer them to apps or something.
It's called, I think it's actually called AppBrain.
Yeah. And what it is it's outside...
It's called AppBrain, and it's great. You could share apps, and it recommends apps based on previous apps you've gone.
Yeah, it's basically outside peer review. It's the word-of-mouth stuff like I'm talking about, you know, which is...
But they also have, you know, statistical recommendations.
Yeah.
They also have
No, and it's like, more like that is how those need to work. Now, the problem is, I don't see Microsoft, Google, or Apple doing that right internally, because they're going to, of course, want to sell that, you know? Whereas something like that, it's honest, peer review, yada yada. It's very hard to forge that to say something good about something crappy.
Which is what's so good about AppBrain, huh?
Okay, well...
Let's go spam the internet or something, make fake for...
Oh, I'm sure SEO people are already trying to figure out how to manipulate that latest arm of social media.